Hi ladies, it's Susan with Pumpkin Hill Stampers. I have a fun holiday card for you today with our Stamp and Share. So I'm doing a holiday event this coming weekend, and so it's a mom and me stamp together. So I wanted to do some fun cards, maybe a little cutesy for some of you, but I thought it was kind of nifty. And the two sets I'm using together are Santa's Sleigh for the words and Foxy Friends, but we're making a reindeer out of our fox stamps. So let's go ahead and get started. So here's the card. Now we're using Emerald Envy, Whisper White, Crumb Cake, Early Espresso, and Real Red for our colors. And all my details are on my post, so you can find all the specifics just by clicking through on the links. So don't worry about that. Alright, so let's go ahead and do our stamping first. We need these three pieces for stamping. Alright, so now I'm using thick white for the front, and I'll show you why when we put that ribbon on. So let's go ahead and stamp. So I'm starting with my trees, and I'm using Emerald Envy. Okay, and so I'm going to do a stamp with full ink, and then I'm going to stamp again, but without re-inking it. We call that a stamp off, or if you stamp once and then just stamp again. So I'm going to ink it up, that big tree, and I'm going to stamp in the center. Then I'm going to pull it off, huff it, and stamp one up and over to the right a little bit. Okay, then I'm going to stamp another tree, up again, huff it. So I'm just huffing, blowing on the, not blowing, kind of like misting the stamp. And then I'm going to go a little bit to the left, and then we've got to do one more. So I inked it up one more time and go up. So that gives it a feeling of layered trees front to back. So that kind of gives you an added stamped dimension. Alright, so now I'm going to put that one away. Rub the ink off my finger that I just got on there. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to do is stamp my words at the bottom. Okay, so I'm stamping in, put some emboss powder on there, stamping in Real Red the Merry Christmas wishes at the bottom. Okay, so all the stamping's done for the front. Now, we have a green card, so I have a liner, which I forgot to get out, so let me get that out. And we're going to stamp the other words, the greetings, on the inside. I'm also doing that in Real Red. So, and as you'll see, I put my stamp on there kind of on the diagonal because it fit the block well, and I can handle the block well. So don't feel like your stamps always have to go on squarely, as long as you're stamping, which the clear ones are nice to see through, as long as you're stamping squarely. Okay, so there's that. So there's our two main panels. Now let's stamp up this reindeer. So I've got the body, and I've picked the one that has the little polka dots on his head. And I'm stamping that in Crumb Cake. And I am putting this on thick white as well, just because I'm going to pop it up and I want it to have some thickness to it. Now I'm going to come in with Early Espresso and add the antlers. I'm overlapping those antlers a little bit down on those spots. And then I'm also adding the feet in the front, just like that. Alright, so now we have a face, and I'm going to use my markers. So I'm using Early Espresso to add color to the eyeballs. I'm just kind of dabbing it on there. And then I'm going to use Real Red, because I like reindeers with red noses. Those lovely Rudolphs. Huff that one more time just so it doesn't dry. And then I'm just going to position this, and I can see through so I know where it's going on the face. So there's my cute little reindeer. Now I'm going to mimic his head on my envelope. So I have another stamp that's just the outline of the head. This one doesn't happen to have the spots on it, but that's okay. So I'm going to put him up on there. So I've got his head, and I'm going to add the antlers again, just like I did before, and re-stamp that face, same way I did before. So a little red on the nose, and 2 eyes with early espresso. And I'm going to put that on. So now we got a fun envelope as well. Okay, so our stamping is done now. So now let's go ahead and assemble our card. Alright, so my envelope is good. Put that aside. I'm going to go ahead and put my liner on the inside. Helps clean off my workspace so that it won't be in the way. So that just gets centered and positioned on there. Now, I've always, maybe by habit, or the way I was shown, put my greeting right here in the center. But I've been seeing more and more samples, and I've been starting to do it, putting the expression like down in one corner so that people can write a whole note, but your greeting is still there. So, you know, something different to think about when you're putting your card together. Now, I am using burlap ribbon. Okay, and this says that it is, I think it's 7/8. Does it tell me on here? 5/8. It's 5/8 wide. So you may not be able to see it, but there's about, I think I counted the other day, 8 or 9 strands of thread there. And basically what this burlap is it's thread sewn onto a mesh, a clear mesh backer. And so what I've done is I've taken a full piece, okay, about 8 inches I did, and I cut 3 of the strands off. So after I had my length, I took my scissors and I split three strands off. Okay, so that made this a little bit narrower. So now what I'm going to do now, this is something I don't do very often, I'm going to use Scotch tape to put my ribbon on my card. I tried the snail, it just, sorry for the reach, it just didn't hold it, and I don't want it to come off. So I'm just going to position my ribbon on the back, and I'm using a piece of Scotch tape, so just like you would with a package, tacking it down. Now, this is why I use the thick white cardstock, because I think with the thin cardstock that would be very bulky, and we don't want to really see bulk through the card. Now, I'm going to go ahead and snail this down because I'm going to put dimensionals behind the deer, and this bow is kind of bulky. But if you wanted to now do pop dots and pop the whole thing up the front of the card, you could do that as well. But I'm going to snail it. So I'm going to go ahead and add snail to my card. I'm going to go ahead and put some snail right over that ribbon. Not that it applies very well, but there it is anyway. Okay. So now I'm going to put this on the front of my card. Okay. So this is going on the front. And you may notice that the burlap threads loosen a little bit, but that's okay. Alright, I'm going to bring all that down so it adheres nicely. I didn't want to rub it on the front because I want to smear any kind of wet ink. Okay, so now we've got our reindeer. I'm taking an oval framelit, and I'll go to the Big Shot, and I'll trim him out to fit inside this oval framelit. Now you have to be careful when you stamp your reindeer that you kind of get it in the center of your piece. You could die cut your oval first and then stamp them on there, so whichever way works better for you. So I've done that. Now, like I said, I'm going to put him on dimensionals. One up and one down, and he's going to go right over the top of that burlap ribbon. So I'm putting him right over here. Don't want to hide our words. So there's that. Now, what I've done with the rest of this ribbon, this is why I made it thinner, because I wanted to put a bow on there. But it was really too big to tie it around and put a big bow in there, so that's why I took these strands off. So my strands are still adhered to each other. Now as I tie this, they might loosen. So I call this the bunny ear bow. I've done this before. I take the strand, I break it in half, kind of with my fingers, not really breaking. Fold it in half, make 2 loops, okay, that are workable, pinch them. Okay, fingers, let's work. Alright, so pinch them, then I crisscross them and tie a knot with the loops. Now with this ribbon you got to be careful you get all the strands. Okay. And then you pull, and you can kind of adjust the loopiness and the ends, and then you pull it tight. See? Then I take my two ends and I bring them together, pinch them together like this, and then I take my paper snips and I trim them so that they're even. Now that's after my bow is all set. Trim them so they're even. Now you may notice that as I'm working with this, my fibers are coming loose, so it's just going to make my bow a little more festive, which is fine. Alright, now I'm going to use a glue dot to attach my bow. It might take more than one, because this is kind of chunky ribbon, chunky twine at this point. So I'm going to put two on there. And then I'm just going to, lots of fibers, going to attach that over here and tack that down. So there's my card. So you can see the more you work with those fibers, the kind of more messy they get, but still kind of a neat effect. Very natural looking, I think, for a forest scene. So there's our card. So this is what I refer to as a stamp and share. Those of you who stamped with me before, it's kind of like a bundle to go. If you have Foxy Friends, or if you just like the way this card is laid out and you say, hey, I got a stamp set I could use to make something similar, stamp and share is you can contact me and I will happily share with you the product bundle. So everything will be pre-cut and measured. You'll have to have your own stamps and adhesive and inks, your big shot for doing the die cutting or punch, you know, whatever you want to use with that, for a small fee. So if you just want to say, hey, I really like those colors or those embellishments and I'd like a kit to make a card, contact me and I will happily get one to you. And for those of you who have these materials, go ahead and give it a try. All the measurements and instructions of how I did this, or watch the video again, are on my blog, and there's a link to it from this post. So you can give it a try all on your own. And you know what? Share it with me. Shoot me a photo of something you've done from a stamp and share. I'd love to see it. So until I see you all again, or until I stamp with you this weekend, if that may be the case, happy stamping. Have a lovely day. Bye-bye.